This is a story created by 3 presidents and galvanized by the 3 tiers of government. A story of capturing the energy of Africa's most populous nation and unleashing power to drive Africa's biggest economy. This is the story of the largest single power project in the world and of the world-class team that made it happen. This is the story of the Niger Delta Power Holding Company, NDPHC. The story of the Niger Delta Power Holding Company began in 2005, when the Nigerian government realized that all its efforts to kickstart the economy would amount to nothing without the provision of adequate electric power to boost the nation's productive capacity. NDPHC began as an intervention program of the government in a bold move to develop 7 medium-sized thermal power stations in the Niger Delta area. This project, called the National Integrated Power Project, NIPP, was sited in the region because gas, which Nigeria has in abundance, is mainly located in the Niger Delta area. The Niger Delta Power Holding Company was then incorporated by the federal government as a private limited liability company, which will develop and actualize the National Integrated Power Project, NIPP. The creation of the Niger Delta Power Holding Company, NDPHC, was a direct fallout from the loss of confidence by government and the people in the ability of the then National Electric Power Authority, NEPA, to meet the power needs of the country. NDPHC therefore came in as the catalyst needed to drive government's transformation, since without energy, a nation's economy can become grounded. The new company was run by a steering committee for some time before a proper board of directors was constituted, with the chairman of the steering committee, the then Vice President Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, becoming chairman of the new board, where he played a crucial role in the survival and success of the company. As chairman of the board, he initiated several visits to project sites, the findings of which led to the approval of the release of more funds to NIPP projects by the Musa Yar'Adua government, and which he sustained when he became president himself. For a nation desperately in need of power, it was only natural for the government to see the potentials of the NIPP model in generating much-needed electricity as quickly as possible. This resulted in the government increasing the scope of the NIPP.
The question was, hey, we're missing something. We are building power plants, so how does the power get to Sokoto, for instance? How does it get to Yola? How does it get to Ibadan? How does it get to, So then decided that, hey, you must have to build a very strong transmission backbone to be able to take this along with it. Okay. So a plan was put in place to make sure that you put a strong backbone there. 2, if you bring so much power into the network, high voltage power, how does it get used by the people to whom this power was meant? Again, it was found that the distribution system in Nigeria was also very weak, and therefore there was a need for an intervention in the distribution system. These were issues that are coming out as challenges, as at the beginning of the project. Then it was now thought that, okay, with 6 medium-sized power plants, which at that time will give Nigeria 2,600 megawatts. Could it not be a little bit more than that, having regards to the expense of bringing this transmission distribution infrastructure to play, and in addition to the gas? To then decide to add a few more. Okay, so some of the existing PSCN, newer power plants, like Omotosho, Giregu, and Olorun-Osogbo, by then decided to let's do a second phase of this same project, using the same people who did this first phase project, and then see how we can add value to it. And then, of course, Alaoji came in again. So from the 7 became 6, and then we added this 4. And then that made it 10.
In 2007, Umaru Musa Yar'Adua became president. At that time, the NDPHC was facing its greatest challenge yet. Nigeria's Revenue, Mobilization and Fiscal Commission had taken the federal government to court, challenging the legality of using excess crude oil revenues to fund the NIPP. Later, there was a public hearing on the NIPP by the National Assembly. These caused disruptions to the NIPP that saw the entire project stalled for over 2 years.
We thank God for Yar'Adua, who tried to manage that in spite of his own difficulties, and later when Goodluck Jonathan came in, and he brought the strength, he brought back the life into the organization, he brought this team that was required to put it back on track.
After the trying times, the NIPP was back on track. The re-engineered NDPHC now had a formal commitment from the 3 tiers of government, whose contributions to the NIPP are now categorized as stocks, for which they have received share certificates.
Everybody had to now put legal, translated, verbal discussions and agreements into more, informed and legally applicable agreements, and that took time in getting.
The NDPHC board now consists of 4 federal ministers, 6 state governors, and top management of the NDPHC, with the Nigerian vice president as its chairman. NDPHC operates from its corporate headquarters situated in Maitama District, Abuja, with an annex housing the engineering and technical services. Today, the Niger Delta Power Holding Company has successfully left its shadowy past behind and has gone on to record massive overall progress in delivering the National Integrated Power Project (NIPP), which has the astonishing record of being the largest single power project in the world.
We set about building 10 power plants. I'm happy to announce that 6 of them are already on the grid as we speak. And 5 of them are fully completed. The last one that is on the grid but not fully completed is Alaoji. The ones that have been completed is Gerugu, Omotosho, Olorun-Shogu, Ihovo, and Sapele, or Gorode if you like. The ones that are at various stages of completion, definitely the minimum of them is about 75%. And some of them have even gone to 90%. It's Calabar, Ebema, Omoku, and Baran. These projects are in Nigeria. A lot of distribution projects, 297 injection substations have been built by NIPP. Over 100 transmission substations have been built, and over 5,000 kilometers of 330, 132 kV transmission lines have been built. And over 50% of all this transmission, distribution, and gas have been achieved. And the remaining 50% are at very high stages of completion.
In its characteristic manner, the NDPHC has set new standards in critical infrastructure financing by embarking on the sale of 80% of government shares in the 10 power stations in an exercise considered by many international observers as one of the most transparent and successful privatization programs in Africa, starting with roadshows in Lagos, Hong Kong, London, and New York.
Now, all these 10 power plants have indeed been privatized. We've gone through a very transparent process of privatization, and we have achieved something again that is unparalleled in the whole of Africa, if not indeed the whole world. Because a lot of people are still wondering, what is this about these Nigerians that they start something like that and achieve these successes? And is it not this backward country? You know what I mean? And people from the Ministry of Power, the BPE, NAC, everybody, the Ministry of Petroleum, Ministry of Finance, NGC, everybody, every stakeholder, TCN, were with us when we went to this, the roadshow, the marketing, outlets that we set up. Eventually, we got this. We sold the power plants for $5.7 billion.
The expected funds from the privatization form the basis for a new phase of the NIPP, which will see the NDPHC construct new hydropower projects of various output capacities, as well as several critical transmission infrastructure projects. This new phase of the NIPP is expected to run for 5 years.
We had the NEC, which is the National Economic Council, which of course all the governors are members, and significant members of the cabinets at the federal level are also members, and it's chaired by the Vice President, who is also federal. So you see the federal, states and all local governments are well represented, and they also acceded to it, and the President approved that whenever we eventually get these monies in, let us continue to use the monies for additional investment in power, additional transmission facilities to support what we have done before, ensure that evacuation is not going to be a problem, and to make the entire grid system more robust with sufficient flexibility to manage turbulence when there are difficult times. And this we intend to do with the monies that come from the sale of this power plant. And so that's another very significant measure of success. Let me also tell you that the National Assembly, the Senate and the House of Rep are also on board. The committees on power, the committees on privatization, particularly, we are all engaged in this exercise. So it's a very high level of transparency that you can never imagine. And every now and then we give ourselves brief just to carry ourselves along to see what stage are we at this moment, and that continues on a regular basis.
Because of the work of the NDPHC in delivering the NIPP, Nigeria has experienced increased capacity in electricity supply. Not resting on its oars, the NDPHC is championing a new cause that powers the electric thermal plant and keeps them running on full capacity.
The gas that we were producing, which was about 4,500, we are trying to build capacity to 10,000 megawatts. So we need sufficient gas beyond that capacity, so we can use the excess for industry and other, domestic uses. So we really need to build our gas infrastructure beyond what we have right now. Okay, so the Goodluck Jonathan administration has done fantastic in terms of the distribution infrastructure, done wonderful things with the transmission, and done, unprecedented things with the generation, over a period of a short time, and also building some gas infrastructure. But then if the gas does not move into that place, Nigerians will not see it. We will get some wells and give it to private sectors, and those people will develop them. In addition to whatever the Ministry of Petroleum is doing, because the Ministry of Petroleum and the other agencies under them are also working towards getting more gas, into the system. So when these two things meet at a point, we will be smiling home with adequate power supply in Nigeria. And we hope that by the year 2020, Nigeria will definitely not be where we are now.
In its past, its present, and its future, the Niger Delta Power Holding Company presents itself as a model for developing critical infrastructure for emerging economies such as Nigeria. A solid structure, transparency, and the ability to create credible investment opportunities for both local and foreign investors alike makes for a bright and prosperous future for Africa's biggest economy. The Niger Delta Power Holding Company is committed to actualizing the Nigerian government's National Integrated Power Project (NIPP). In order to evacuate the energy generated to the power grid, we are constructing over 125 transmission high-tension lines and substations across Nigeria. And to bring the power to the doorstep of the consumers, we are constructing over 295 electricity distribution network projects and installing 22,000 modern CSP completely self-protected transformers of 50 kV ratings all over the country, leading to greater efficiency in electricity availability and load stability.
This is Niger Delta Power Holding Company, NDPHC.